Kind of got through my A-levels not really knowing. I had quite a broad range of interests, so I'd always loved history and I'd always loved art, and I was kind of looking at a way for combining the two.
My parents, since I was knee-high, always took me around these old castles and art galleries and things when we were on holidays. So I think this passion for artistic things was instilled for me from a very, very early age.
I somehow got into the way in which writers and poets responded to certain artworks, primarily painting. Well, history of art, of course, does not stand on its own, or artworks does not stand on their own. They really function in a culture, in a visual culture, but also in a history. Quite often, an artwork is a beautiful piece. It's a lovely thing to look at, but it's also a historical document. It's historical evidence.
It's appealing to the people that are looking at it and going, well, what am I looking at here, and why is it like this, and why am I seeing it this way? And I think you've got to really want to challenge that. Not just look at it and go, oh, that's really lovely, or that's pretty. You've got to look at it and go, why is that lovely, and why do I think it's pretty, and should I think it's pretty, and what is pretty?
When you do art history, you do art, you do history, you do critical theory, you do philosophy, you do a little bit of literature, a little bit of psychology perhaps sometimes even.
You do get the grounding in kind of the traditional art, but you can branch out beyond that. You're not confined in it in any way.
You do primarily core courses in your first year. You have a couple of optional courses to do in your second year, and then another optional course and a thesis in your third year.
Some people have studied it for A-level and some of us hadn't, so there was a kind of levelling of the pitch a little bit.
At the end of your first year, you have the chance to write an essay on an object or image or building in Oxford.
Each week there are several lectures that you have to go to as a student. There are several meetings with your tutors to discuss the papers that you have read for that week. You will have reading lists to go through, so you will spend some time in the library. But really, that is also the workload is also what you make of it.
In your second year, a non-Western option and a modern option are compulsory.
We really would like our students to get into the museums. Quite often we lecture or we have tutorials in the Ashmolean Museum, Pitt Rivers Museum, History of Science Museum, and we stand in front of the actual object.
For second year, you do something called collection placement, where they set up, it's essentially a bit like an internship, I guess, with a lot of the main galleries or museums.
Colleges have Art Week. You can become involved in that. We have an exceptional cluster of museums and collections, and this is very much part of the facilities that we can offer, but it's also very much part of the spaces where you actually will do history of art.
The Ashmolean speaks for itself. It's just huge. And also colleges have their own little collections.
We have the Pitt Rivers Museum, which is it's a museum of ethnography, but it is also basically a museum of museums. It really displays, or it shows you the history of museum display right within the space of the museum. Then we have the National History Museum, which is probably the most beautiful building of Oxford.
The libraries are just packed full of anything you could ever want, because the Bodleian has a right to any book printed in the UK.
One of the things that we treasure here is a kind of a hands-on approach to art history.
Your tutors here are so fantastic. They really, it's what most interests them in the world, and they want to share that with you and you want to learn from them. And so that was something that was really appealing. You're thinking, this is so scary, I'm going to be talking to the person that wrote the book. But actually it's such a lovely, set up. You quite often, I've been to tutorials where you're offered tea and a bar of chocolate when you arrive.
What is special about the Oxford system is that you have this great dialogue and this ongoing dialogue with a student for basically 3 years. And so not only I would like to guide them in developing their own thoughts on this body of material that we offer, but it is very much meant to be a dialogue.
You kind of play ideas off each other. So you're working with the other students and listening to their ideas, and quite often they'll have approached a topic in a completely different way.
So you will be writing basically an essay a week, and quite often the topic of the essay is entirely free. What we really want you to learn or want to become is an independent thinker.
They say it doesn't matter if you haven't studied art history, and you think, but it will do, it will. But it actually doesn't, it really doesn't.
What we really are looking for is someone with a kind of a sensitivity for the visual and for visuality.
You'll be given something visual to work with, to look at. So if you're looking at it and you think, oh, this is interesting, or you can just literally, if you kind of verbalize that internal, oh, that's quite quirky, it's really easy.
Just say what you think. When you're asked questions, the people interviewing you, I don't think they have an answer in their head and you need to score bingo with this answer.
Go and see as much art as you can. Make sure that you are aware of whatever recent exhibitions that you went to, that you really got interested in it, because that's something that we would like to talk about with you.
Keep thinking about the visual, just engage with objects and get excited by them, and let yourself, be curious about them and wonder what you're looking at.
If you have a passion, if you have a curiosity about something, you know it. The point is following it.
What they're after is that you kind of are able to think for yourself and give a balanced and thought-through opinion.
When I found out I got accepted onto the course, it was really great. It was nearly Christmas and my dad was at home, and I think he was so worried for me because I think he knew that I really, really wanted it. And so I had to do that thing where you can't open it in front of someone because you're thinking, I just need to.
It was just a very kind of, is this really happening sort of feeling.
I think my dad bought me flowers, which is very nice.
Some go directly into a gallery or a museum. We've had people who've taken a gap year and then come back to do graduate studies.
I've got this sort of leaning towards town planning, boring as that sounds.
The whole curating and museums and exhibitions and the way that's structured and the way that influences how people relate to art, and that's something that really interests me.
People also end up in journalism and education. They become teachers. If you are really very much triggered by this question of why you like something and you don't really know, if that becomes a bit of an obsession, perhaps even, then it is about art, then art history is the course to go to.